What's going on, guys? It's your boy Robbie Rowland here. Another pitching talks segment. Like I told you in last pitching talk segment, I am basically changing the format around to where if someone direct messages me on Instagram or shoots me an email and asks like a really good question that I think will benefit, a lot of other people, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write that down and then hopefully hammer it home on like one of these segments where I can actually, spend like 10 minutes just diving into the segment or the topic rather than just shooting a DM back. And I mean, I don't want to be the guy that sits here and says like my time is valuable, but at the same time, like I am busy. I have a lot of stuff going on, and for me to sit down and just type it to one person and then have another person kind of ask the same thing, it's just more beneficial for me and you to provide this type of content to where if I get those questions over and over again, I can literally just direct them to a video like this that not only really dives into the subject like full detailed, but it allows you guys to hear it, over and over again. And even if, there's people out there that don't ask questions too, that do have questions. So hopefully, those people as well watch it. With that being said, the full length video will be on my YouTube channel. So if you haven't already, make sure you check my YouTube channel out, subscribe, turn on the bell notification so you're notified when I release a new video. The clips that I post in my Instagram will just be clips from that whole video. So if you want more of like that subject of what I'm talking about, you just head over to my YouTube channel. You find the link in the bio. You tap that link. It'll take you to another page where you scroll down a little bit. You'll see something that says YouTube. Just click that. It'll take you right to my YouTube channel. And like I said, be sure you're subscribed to that and notified when new episodes are released. With that being said, today's topic. Brandon Morris on Instagram reached out to me and asked me like, hey, as pitchers, how do we stay relaxed on the mound, right? Like how do we set aside our nerves and how do we remain focused throughout like the whole course of a game? So I think this is one of those topics that everyone like needs to hear. And I'm not saying they need to hear it because I'm going to be right, no matter like what I say is right. Like I'm not saying that. These are just, again, when I talk about these things, during these segments, it's what I've experienced. It's what's helped me, and hopefully the things that I've gone through can help bring that experience to you guys. So, I'm very passionate about this topic because I think it's a multi-layered topic, right? I think there's multiple layers to really understanding how to stay focused and how to stay calm under the circumstances, right? So I think the first layer that I really do want to dive into is the preparation, like trusting the preparation to a point that brings about inner self-confidence. So in 2011, I was having a very awful year. Like I was 19, it was my second full season. And I was coming off a decent year actually when I was 18. I threw pretty well in a tough league. And then I came back to that same league and I was trying to be someone I wasn't. I was in my head. It was the first time really, I've talked about this a lot of times. It was the first time for me like dealing with failure over and over again. Like no matter how hard I tried, no matter how much work I put into it, I just kept failing. And then what happened along the course of or the stretch of a couple starts was I'd go out there and I would be trying so hard to do good that I started putting like internal pressure on myself to a point where like I couldn't stay calm. Like it wasn't the fact that like I was going out there like super nervous because like people were watching. It was the fact that like I put so much work into it, and then when it didn't go well, it was almost like an embarrassment to myself. Like, hey, this guy is putting in all this work and he can't get out of the third inning, as a starter. So for me, it was like I couldn't stay calm because I was so amped up and like so like ready to frickin' rock, and so not wanting to fail, I guess, if that makes any sense, that I had a hard time like really focusing in. And you know, I think what helped me in that period of time was really just maturing. You know, maturing as a pitcher to the point where understanding that all I had to do in that instant was, as a starter, you're pitching on a 5-day routine, so it was for those 4 days in between my starts, just work as hard as I could, put as much work into it, put as much smart, you know, efficient work into the process, control everything that I can control. I know I say that a lot, but it was true for me at that time. And then at the end of the day, like, I can look in a mirror and be like, yeah, I mean, I did everything I can. You know, on the physical side, I did everything I can. And this will be the next layers when I go into the mental side of it. And then when I went out onto the mound, it was a trust in the preparation. It was a self-confidence in that, like, yo, I prepared. Like, I'm fully ready for this game because I've done everything in my power to be successful in this certain position. And you know, I think as I progressed that year, and then moving on into that next year, 2012, where I started seeing a little bit more success, I kind of just kept with that same approach. Was, you know, what can I control? What can I control? And then when I went out there, it was all the work that I put in brought about a self-confidence in me, which allowed me to stay calm during, you know, pressure situations. You know, diving in a little bit deeper to that, it was, you know, now when I throw my bullpens, or when I threw my bullpens that year, it was picturing in my head and putting myself in a state of mind where, like, you know, it was second and third with no outs and the 3-hole hitter at the dish. I'm throwing a bullpen, and it was like, okay, how can I pitch to this guy like I would in the game? So it was putting my mental state in that certain position that I would sometimes get in during the games and have a lot of like anxiety and pressure, and just seeing myself in bullpens like succeed through that, you know. And then what happened was that would start carrying over to the games. You know, second and third, no outs, 3-hole hitter. You know, we're up by 1. Like, gotta have this lead. Like, how can, you know, and just putting yourself into those positions and seeing yourself succeed, and just starting to get acclimated with that external pressure or even internal pressure. So that's kind of like the one layer of it that helped me moving on in my career. It's freezing here, by the way, today. The second layer that I want to dive into is like the mental state and the things that we can control from a mindset point of view. So I kind of alluded to like the physical part of it, to where, you know, we can, when we're throwing our bullpens in between our games, like to put yourself in that state and see yourself succeed. Well, it was kind of the same thing for me, and this is something that I actually didn't do in 2011 when I was 19, that I wish I would have done, as far as when I wasn't even at the field, or when I wasn't around like baseball, you know, even at home or before a start. This is something I started doing later in my career, was to practice calmness. Now, I know that sounds like super cliche and corny, but it was true. Like, you know, Alan Jaeger talks about it a lot, how we have to put into practice what we want to do out on the mound. Like, we're so physical, and we don't really step back and say, like, okay, what am I doing from a mental standpoint? You know, I'm not really practicing my mental stand, you know. So for me, it was, you know, sitting down and like meditating. You know, I'm a very hyperactive individual. It was a really hard process for me to do, but it really benefited me, because you know, now that I'm having my practice of, you know, morning, afternoon, night, like meditation, visualization drills, just learning about my inner self. Like, I know that sounds weird, but like learning about what are the types of cues that are going to allow me to remain calm, you know, when I'm on the mound. So, you know, is it box breathing, which is, for example, like, is it 4 seconds in, 4 second hold, 4 second exhale? So you know, like, are those some of the things that are going to allow me to be calm when I'm on the mound? And if it is, like, then practice it. You know, practice a routine in which is going to allow you to get back to that focal point of, you know, like, okay, now I'm calm, I can control my breath, my heart rate's under control. Now, like, let's focus on the task at hand. For me, that was huge because I was, like I said, a very hyperactive guy. Like, I'm always like amped up. Like, I love pitching. I love competing. So I'm so focused on that. And then sometimes that's a negative thing because I'm so amped up that sometimes I don't control my breath, I don't control my heart rate, you know, and when you don't control those aspects, like, things can get out of control and things can speed up. Everyone knows that the game of baseball can speed up on you drastically. So for me, you know, a big thing was practice my breath. Practice, you know, certain things that are going to allow me to stay calm. With that being said, like, there was also some focal point things that I can do every single time on the mound that I knew were going to be there. So for me, it was stepping off the back of the rubber, looking down. I'm looking right at the rubber. The rubber's always going to be there no matter where you're pitching. You're always going to have a rubber. So it wasn't like I was, you know, looking in section 118, row 35, seat 4. Like, sometimes there's parks that aren't going to have that, or sometimes there's parks that aren't going to have like a certain sign that you want to look at when you're at your home field. So for me, it was always understanding that there was going to be a rubber everywhere I pitched, and it was a point when I knew the game was speeding up and, you know, things were not going the way I wanted it. I was still controlling my breath, but I could just sense that the game was getting out of my control. So I'd step off the back of the rubber or the back of the mound, I'd look down, there's the rosin bag sometimes, and then there's the rubber. And it was just me, like, putting myself into that present moment of, like, just calmness. You know, like, you're able to, like, look at something, take your focus off something else, put it on something, and just be in the present moment. You know, like, say the guy, first 2 guys of the inning, you know, single, double, or whatever, like in the blink of an eye. Like I said, the game speeds up on you quick. So I have second and third, no outs, and I film like maybe 3 pitches. So for me, it's say I get the ball from like the shortstop or the third baseman, whoever had the ball last, I get it. And, you know, before the next guy even steps at the dish, like, I'm off the back of the mound, I'm looking, like, you know, at the rubber, the rosin bag, whatever is that on the mound, and it's just, you know, breathing, you know, like box breathing, like I said earlier, 4 seconds in, 4-second hold, 4-second exhale, just brought me back to that present moment. And you know, sometimes vary in my mind where, yeah, obviously it's a stressful situation, you hate to be in it, but even for me, sometimes I have to remind myself, like, this is fun. Later in my career, I started handling everything kind of like differently. You know, I started, even if I was getting shellacked and my frickin' neck was hurting from turning all over the ballpark, I would still kind of sit back in those moments and be like, no, I still have a jersey on. Like, I'm still doing something that I really do love. Like, I really have a desire for. And even though this sucks right now that I'm getting my frickin' tits lit, like, I still love what I do. You know, I still love being a pitcher. And I think for me, that just brought a sense of, like, joy and happiness along with it. Yeah, no one wants to suck, but still you can put yourself in the moment of, yeah, this is still fun. I'm still grateful for doing this. But at the end of the day, man, I think if you're a pitcher or you're an athlete, you're gonna deal with times in your career or your life where the stakes are high. You know, you have that little voice in your head that says you're not good enough, or that brings about a sense of doubt. And you know, we can sit here and say, like, don't listen to that voice, or just stay confident all we want, but we all know that it is so much harder to actually put into action than it is to say. So honestly, you know, I know I sound like a broken record when I say this, but it's developing personal cues for yourself that's going to allow you to remain calm. And for me in my career, it was, you know, what can I do out on the mound that reminded me what I was doing was so much fun. You know, I think when I was in my younger years, when I was pitching, you know, I lost the sense of joy, and I got so focused on it being like a business, and it is. I'm not saying it's not, but I lost the sense of childhood or childlike joy that pitching used to bring me, and I developed this I have to mentality rather than I get to. So, you know, once I started just really sitting back and, you know, reminding myself over and over again that the game is fun, I love pitching, I love competing, and no matter if I suck or if I do really well, I'm still grounded in the fact that the game is fun for me. I'm still grounded in the fact that I love playing the game of baseball. And I think for me, that just, along with the cues that I mentioned earlier, so along with, the physical preparation, the mental preparation, and then the notion that I love what I'm doing, it allowed me to just stay grounded no matter what the situation brought. So if I'm going out there and I'm pitching Game 7 of the 2021 World Series, which I fully in my mind believe I will, I'm still grounded in those three things. I'm still grounded that I work my absolute tail off, and no one prepares more or even efficiently or smarter or whatever. No one prepares better than I do. No one prepares better than I do in a mental standpoint. I've done all the mental practice that I needed to prepare myself for that situation. And then third, no one's going to show that they love the game more than me. I'm going to bring that to the table every single time that I put a uniform on and I'm present in the moment. So those three things for me allowed me to really just sit back and enjoy, and it took so much stress off, and it took really all the pressure off, and then I was just able to compete, and I was just able to play the game the way it was. So for me, that's what worked. I encourage you guys that are listening to this to develop your own senses of your own components to going about facing stress or facing pressure. It's all going to vary per individual. So like I said, I encourage you guys to do that. And I also encourage you guys, like I said in the beginning, is subscribe to this YouTube channel, follow me on Instagram, whatever it takes, for you guys to get these little nuggets that I'm providing. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying you should always hear me, but for me, it's always nice hearing someone else's opinion or someone else's way they went about it. That's why I'm always sitting here on my computer and searching articles or searching interviews of the best to do it. How do they approach it? And then dabbling with your own routine. So, like I said, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Instagram, all of that stuff that I'm out here doing. There's some. Hopefully, you can take some good nuggets away from that. So, I appreciate you guys, and that's all I got. So, Brandon Morris, make sure to tag you into this. Thanks for the question. With that being said, any of you guys that want something like this done, shoot me a question, direct messages, emails on my homepage of my Instagram. Just let me know what you guys want me to talk about. I have a list up here of all of these different subjects. If you don't want your name mentioned, just make sure to say that and I won't mention your name. But these are all good questions. Brandon, there's a lot of people dealing with this, man. So I praise you for stepping out of your comfort zone and asking that question to begin with. So just remember, there's no dumb questions, and I appreciate you for asking. So best of luck to each and every one of you who are listening, moving forward, and hope to encourage and inspire and motivate and educate and all those cool words moving forward. Love you guys. We'll talk next time. Pitching Talks. I'll be rolling out.